Gia here on another Advisor Insight lecture. And this one, we're going to be talking about how the personal brand game has already changed. Most people, they're still building like their personal brands using outdated strategies from the internet era that no longer exists. Things are rapidly changing when it comes to building a personal brand. Visibility is saturated. Intention is super cheap. And audiences, well, they become more skeptical of image-based branding. So what I'm going to break down and talk about is how personal branding landscape has changed, why people are actually struggling to stand out despite constant creation of content, which is problematic in itself, and what actually builds credibility, trust, and long-term relevance in today's environment. So let's get into it. First off, you already know, as the title says, the personal brand landscape has changed. What worked before and years ago has become less effective. Now, as you've heard me talk about on previous lectures, that makes sense, actually. Supply and demand. If you have more people coming in and doing the exact same thing at the same time, there's going to be less value for that particular thing, right? There's going to be less demand. And so it'll be a lot more difficult to actually stand out and get the effect that you're looking for. Attention, it's saturated, and audiences are more skeptical than they've ever been, right? People are just like, oh, it's an ad, I don't want to see it. What are you selling? Well, you're going to sell me on something? Oh, here we go. You're going to talk all about yourself, right? They're frustrated from constantly being advertised to and marketed to everywhere, right? And that's just kind of what it is on the internet now, because attention is essentially that value, or how they make their money. By you giving your attention, being on their platform and interacting and engaging, it allows them to build their platform full of people, right? The value of having a following or having a platform with people, in which case then people can advertise to you. If you didn't know, that's how the internet today works, essentially. So with that, it's very difficult to actually reach people who have constantly been marketed to, because they don't want to hear it. They just want to log on, have their fun, get some entertainment, maybe interact with each other and go about their day. So the reality of the situation is that being visible alone is no longer what creates authority, trust, and opportunity. Just because people see you doesn't mean that you're going to have an impact and convince them to do something, or it's going to be effective in converting them into a customer or a client. That's not enough anymore. You need to bring a lot more to the table. So let's get into like some of the things that I see happening. Most people, they're still using the outdated personal branding strategies, and they're really putting like a priority on their content and trying to up their volume of that, and not really paying attention to their credibility and competence. So, hey, let's get more stuff out. Let's put out a new video. Let's put out new posts. We got a blog. We got blah, blah, blah. Just constant more, mainly because they don't know what to do. That's what would happen if someone has a poor strategy. They don't know about any other options that would work. And so they're like, okay, let's just double down on this thing that we're doing here. That is a poor way on how to proceed within building a brand and building a business. You need to have a strategic approach for that, right? Don't mistake visibility for respect and influence for trust. Just because you get in front of their face doesn't mean that they trust you and want to buy from you or want to follow you, right? Want to connect with your brand and then invest in your brand with either their money, their time, their attention, whatever it is. You need to make sure that, and I'm big on this, that you have a strategy that makes sense for your current environment and the variables that are there. That is what makes a good strategy. It's not just a list of things that you do. You need either someone who can do this or something that can do this to that level, that can assess the environment for all the situations that are there, assess the variables, the threats. Oh my goodness. Oh, I got to watch out for this. If I post this, they're going to cancel me. Right? Shout out to Bud Light. Like, you got to watch out for these things. It's critical. That's why I'm big on strategy. It allows you to actually achieve the goal. That's its purpose. If you thought it was just a buzzword, no, its purpose is to achieve a goal and get results. And a lot of people are lacking that and instead relying on, let's do more of the same tactic. In this case, producing more content. Another pattern that I see is people building their brands mainly around like aesthetics, just their identity, validation, anything except real value. Like that works for a temporary short period of time or especially up front, but later on people drop off because you're not actually delivering anything. There's no substance. You need to have some type of value that you deliver. That is critical, non-negotiable, end of story. If your brand doesn't produce value, you don't need a brand. All right. It needs to produce some type of value. Super important. Another one is people trying to copy like other creators or influencers or whatever, instead of actually developing a unique position. Right. Let's do the same thing that they're doing. Let's look exactly the same. They're getting results. So let's just do the same thing. Short term strategy for a long term loss. I've said that many times. Don't just make short-term moves and then have to jump from thing to thing to thing and constantly having to adapt and chase everything around. Again, not an effective strategy. When I see that when I'm working with clients or just people in general, I'm like, oh, they don't have a lot of experience in this particular area because they don't realize that's inefficient. And to put it directly, it means that you're wasting time, energy, money, right? And oftentimes your peace. It has a cost. It's not free. Just because you didn't notice it didn't mean that there wasn't a cost. So it's critical you get that strategy down. Many personal brands seem all the same, and there's no way to really tell the difference between them. That's a problem. You need to be unique within your market. You need to look at yourself and look at the thing that you do that no one else can do, right? Or that makes you special and makes you unique. Highlight that, push that, be that, do that. That's critical. You can't be doing the same thing as everyone else and think, oh, I'll have great results. Supply and demand, right? The demand is down because the supply is high. So instead, make it to where you are supplying something that other people can't, right? The lane has cleared. It's a lot easier to execute a strategy when the lane's clear. And another one, overexposure. Forcing, like trying to manufacture authenticity, constantly self-promoting themselves, and just weakening their credibility, right? There is a such thing as too much of a good thing. It's not good. It's bad. So you want to make sure that your approach for this matches human psychology. If you show them the same thing again, they're gonna get tired of it. If you eat cake for every single meal for an entire month, you're probably gonna be tired of it. Switch it up a little bit. Sometimes let them see your brand, sometimes deliver some value, sometimes support someone else. Be part of the situation in the community that you're trying to take value from and instead deliver value back to them, right? Don't have manufactured authenticity. They're going to spot that out real quick. You already know if you've been on the internet for 2 seconds, it gets brutal. And it's just not always about you as well. Make sure you're contributing to your community. Now, we covered some of the patterns that I see. Let's talk about some of the consequences. Personal brands becoming interchangeable, forgettable, and ultimately like just being invisible. People don't even pay attention to you anymore. That is how you get replaced. If you seem the same as everyone else, they're going to ignore you. You need to be something that stands out, catches their attention, and makes them say, this might be worth giving my attention to, right? This might be worth investing in by purchasing their product or supporting their brand. Make sure that you stand out well enough to not become invisible. Difficulty standing out despite constant effort and content creation. I get it. Like I said earlier, so a lot of people don't know what else to do. And they figure I just need to do more. I need more content. Like that's something like, especially you're interacting with CEOs that you'll run into a lot. It's more so, I will say more so if their business isn't doing well, then they're going to take whatever the latest trend is and they're going to focus on that. We need more of this. We need more content, right? That is taking a position from fear, which is never productive. Doing more or producing more content is not always the best strategy. You need to make sure that it's supported with the rest of your brand and the rest of your system. Hopefully you have a system that's in place. So when you're just oversaturating the market with more effort and people are seeing more trying to do more things, as I said earlier, they have a much higher chance of ignoring you. And you have a loss of trust from the audiences being exhausted of you saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. You made it all about you. You know what the market responds to? You talking about them. You interact with them, you making it about them, right? It's not all about you and your brand. When you understand that concept, when you truly understand that concept, you'll begin delivering value to your audience and to your followers. That's when you'll see them really connect with you, right? Deliver value first. Critical. Short-term attention and no long-term authority or respect. People, I will say, the short-term attention. I get it if you don't have the ability to big picture thinking, to be able to anticipate and have second order thinking, to know if I do this, this will happen. Third order thinking, because this happened, this is going to happen. I get not everybody can do that, but fine, find someone who can, because just doing the short-term tactics and completely disregarding the long-term consequences of it or effects of it, again, is not effective. Short-term things that you do will affect your long-term authority and whether or not people respect you. Right. So you need to have a game. I've mentioned this before. You need to have a game that takes care of both the short term and the long term. But the short term cannot negatively impact the long term. Again, we're talking about strategy tactics. When you're developing a strategy, these are things that you have to consider. You have to watch for both. Right. You're playing for the big picture with the board. Increasing competition is, well, it's actually probably killing your brand quicker from it being a weak position. Meaning, like, if your brand isn't that strong and everyone's coming in trying to make their brand stronger, your brand is going bye-bye. You need to keep up in terms of making sure that you compete. And a good portion of these things that I'm mentioning or that I'm touching on and talking about are ways that you compete. Making sure that you stand out, making sure that your brand looks strong, making sure that you are delivering value and that you're making it about them and not all about you. These are things that allow you to stand the test of time through all these changes, instead of having your brand killed out from having a very weak or poor position. The last one of the consequences that I'm going to touch on is people, we talked a bit about it, like people becoming trapped just producing more content, but they're not building real leverage or a reputation. Now, what I mean is that just because you made content does not mean that they think you're an authority, right? It has to be effective at doing that, raising up your brand. You need to make sure that you're producing something that people are like, oh, it really knows what they're talking about. Which probably means you're not going to be able to just use ChatGPT for everything. It's going to be the first temptation. I already know. It's going to be the first temptation. You know what? It'll just pump it out. We'll flood more on there. But everyone else is doing the same thing. And people are already getting tired of that. You need to figure out a way, how can I produce something that really sets my brand apart and really says, hey, I am worth paying attention to, right? Try to make sure that that same energy you put into your brand in terms of it having a bit of authority and a bit of value, right? Put that same energy into your content production, even if that means you have to produce less, right? Paying attention to the long term as well as the short term. So those were like some of the consequences, but what about the solution? What about the fix? What are we going to do? All right, GI, you told us all these things. These are all the ways it can go wrong. How can we make this work? Well, your credibility, your reputation, and your ability to actually execute or solve problems matter more than attention. When you put that at the forefront of your focus and you're trying to make sure that you're building up your reputation, you're bolstering or you're strengthening your credibility, And you're also improving your ability to solve problems for your clients or your customers, and not focusing so much on attention. At that point in time, that's when you're building, as I said, very, very, very good value for the people who are invested in you. You're building real value, right? From building real value is how you stand out with having a personal brand. Without it, why should they interact with you? Why should they give you their attention? Why should they buy from you? You need to have some type of value that gives people a reason other than, hey, you saw me a bunch of times. Look at me. I look good, right? That's not enough today. Also, having a unique brand position and real expertise in the first place. If you made a brand, you're saying, I do this thing, or I provide this thing, or I represent this thing, right? I'm an expert in this thing. And you're not an expert in that thing. Long term, that's problematic. You need to have some type of expertise. One thing that I personally have an issue with is that for personal brands today, they made it to where it seems acceptable that anyone can have a personal brand. Hey, I'm not really experienced in this area, but I'm going to build a personal brand and build a following around it. Short-term tactics for long-term loss. People are going to notice. They're going to notice. They're not going to like that. And you won't have much value to deliver. So it's important that you actually have some expertise in your area. So one, either find an area where you have expertise, or two, if you really like the area that you want to jump into, get some expertise in it. Get some experience. Try it. Work with other people. Become better. Right? Set your brand on a strong foundation of actually being able to execute what you're talking about. That's super, super important. Another portion of the solution is to build trust by demonstrating value. Like, get results and show that you can get results. Not just constant self-promotion, not just talking about me, and showing and making the brand look nice or whatever. Actually get results. Because proof of you being able to get results today is at the top of the list. Everyone says that they can do this. Everyone says they can do that. Well, can I see proof of that? Do you have examples? Do you have case studies? Who have you worked with? How do you think? What's your way of thinking or solving this problem? You need to be able to show these things today, because saying that you can do it is no longer enough. And quite frankly, I like this change. I like it. It's no more faking it. You're not going to fake it for too long anymore. You actually have to show that you can do it. And if you can't, you're probably going to need to step aside for the people who can. And it makes the reality of what I'm talking about a lot more serious, because if you can't show that you can do these things, if you can't do these things, you will get replaced by other people who can. They don't have patience for that anymore. The game has changed. So focus on becoming respected and not just noticed. Also, long-term sustainability of your brand comes from real-world capability. And I will say this. I had to think for a second, like, okay, it's a little sensitive. It comes from real-world capability that technology and trends cannot easily replace. What that means is that you need to be smart and strategic in what you choose to do. If you choose to go into an area that is easily replaced by AI, don't be surprised or angry when it gets replaced by AI. Adapt and choose something that cannot be replaced. Take the time. That's the other part. Like, it doesn't mean you think for 2 seconds or ask ChatGPT and I'm all out of ideas. You might have to take weeks or months to figure that out, because it needs to align within yourself and your expertise. Right? So take that time to figure out what lane can't be replaced by AI, and you can get into that and start working it now early before everyone else gets into it. Because this is what happens. Not only does it become oversaturated, but once it becomes oversaturated, what do you think that they're going to set their sights on next for AI to focus on? That new area. So it will be constant hopscotch all over the place unless you have a strategy that really lets you go into an open lane and sets you apart. All right. So to wrap this up, personal brand, it evolved, right? And based oversaturation and audience preferences. It's oversaturated, too many people doing the same thing. Audience has changed. They're saying we've had enough, right? And most people are still competing using the outdated rules, especially if, I'll give you two scenarios, especially if you're going by what people have said on the internet and it may be old advice, or you're using models of AI or ChatGPT or whatever that were based on previous things. So you need to be adaptable, but you also need to be able to observe what's happening in real time and adapt and adjust to that. That's where having someone who's very good at strategy comes in, because that is their skill. That's their thing. That's their value, right? Hey, I'm able to spot all these variables. I'm able to keep up with it real time. Okay, these are the strategy that I developed that will help you achieve this goal that will actually work in reality. That's important. If you're going to pay for something, at least make sure that it's going to work in reality. Or if you're going to spend time doing it, time and energy and money doing it, that it works in reality. Because in a saturated environment, substance, stability, and credibility, that is what becomes the real advantage. Long-term plays. You're building it up. You're getting more credible. You're building your portfolio, who you're working with. You're gaining skills. You're getting some testimonials. You're getting more followers, or people are liking your posts, your insights, or whatever it is, right? You're building that up. The reason why people have a difficult time doing that is because it doesn't come with immediate wins, immediate gains, immediate results, right? Instant gratification. One of the big problems of today in modern society. You're not going to get that instant gratification. Well, welcome to adulthood. It's not always about what you want when you want it. Instead, invest in your future. Invest in yourself. Make sure that you're setting yourself up to win down the line, and the same for your family. All right. And the last thing I'll say is that people who adapt to the new reality, they're going to separate themselves from everybody else still chasing attention. I brought it up previously about the book Who Moved My Cheese, right? So the people who adapt quickly and upfront and early are the ones who are going to win by a huge margin, versus the people who are still trying to gain attention and they're not delivering value, they're not building credibility, and they're also not increasing their reputation. Be one of the people who adapt first. Set yourself up for a win. The personal brand game has changed. So, are you going to keep up? This is GI here on another Advisor Insight lecture. If you guys want to check out more of these, make sure you go to my website, gigriffin.com/insights. And you can also subscribe to the Insight Brief newsletter, in which case I send out different insights, some of the lectures, some of the shows, all kinds of different things on there. All right. So GI here, I'm out.